Good morning. Welcome to this month's edition of Under the Elk. This is our monthly podcast where we discuss all things going on at the Elks Performing Arts Center and Theater. And today we have two very special guests. One, Patti Ortiz, who is the TIS Marketing and Art Educational Manager at the TIS Annex and Art Education Building. And that's over on
235 North Marina.
235 North Marina Street, the big funky colored place on the east side of the street. And sitting next to me on my left is Darlene Wilson. She is the local co-author of Haunted Prescott, and also you are the manager of
owner and tour guide
of a Hunting Experience Tours. And we'll talk about all of those today. But first of all, I'd like just Patti, if you take a minute, just reintroduce yourself. Patti was here last month, and we were talking about the TIS Annex and what it does and all of that, and also the big swoop, and maybe just give us a recap on that.
We talked about the Art Center, too, because we actually have two buildings, and where I'm officed is the Annex building. But today we're going to be talking more about the main building, which is the one where Darlene and I have, or Darlene did some haunted investigations, because it's one of the buildings, well, it's the only building, or one of two buildings that survived the fire in 1900. And it's from 1893 or 95. There's kind of a question.
Yeah, 93 is what I've been finding.
Yeah, your research, Darlene's helped me out with that one.
Okay. I won't quibble over the 2 years, 120 years.
I don't know why that happened. Maybe it has something to do with the spirits.
Yeah.
But it's also Arizona's first skyscraper.
Exactly.
And Arizona's oldest skyscraper.
Yeah, that was news to me.
Yeah.
Really?
Darlene taught me that one.
Yeah, and I tell people that on my tour, and they crack up laughing because it's 3 stories.
The only other building that survived on the square was the building where the Chamber of Commerce is right now. And at that time, it was the jail. So it was
a well-built.
It was a well-built jail.
You did a good job. Bet you there were a lot of sad people around town that day.
And the courthouse, the brick courthouse survived.
Yeah, the original courthouse survived.
Yeah.
Wasn't there another fire, though, that took that one out?
No.
It just got knocked
It just
down
got
and
replaced.
It was starting to fall apart, and they knew they needed something bigger, so they tore it down.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And Darlene, why don't you introduce yourself to the listening public and watching public, and tell them a little bit about yourself and how the heck did you get into this stuff?
Yeah, really. I've been doing the haunted and historical tours for almost 11 years now. And when I started doing them, I really kind of thought it was a fad, and we'll just see how far it goes. And 11 years later, still doing them. And I worked at the Hotel Vendome, which is one of the haunted places, and had things happen. And so it just felt right to start doing the tours and introducing people to the ghost here in Prescott.
Wow, that's neat. Just as a matter of public knowledge, we did have a number of really great images, but due to ghostly interference in email, we're not able to show those to you, but there were some fantastic wild shots of stuff going on around town. Maybe we'll get them posted up if we can later on.
Yeah.
Put them on the Facebook pages and.
Yeah, we'll try to help you with that. So.
Yeah, that'll be cool. Let's talk a little bit about how you got involved in this. In the ghost thing. Yeah, that's not the usual occupation for most people.
Well, I did a lot of, I guess, what you would call psychic work for over 40 years. And when I lived in Colorado, I worked with the police on finding some missing children and a murderer, and started developing migraines, and was told it was time to stop doing that, which I was happy to stop doing.
Yeah.
And I've worked in the biggest industries, and with the last job, when I got laid off, I thought, I don't want to do the same old stuff. And I knew about the Hacienda, and I knew about the Vendome. So I met with the managers at the time, could I bring people into the lobby and show them around, and they were very open to it. The Palace Saloon is where we end the tours, and I've been amazed at how supportive, the town has been and the businesses to let a group of people in looking for ghosts.
Wow, well, that's neat. So when you came to town and said, I think I want to investigate ghosts.
Yeah.
And
That was after you got the tattoo.
No tattoo yet, but
so you went around to the different businesses, and were they aware that these things had gone on?
yes. Now, I knew about the Vendome and the Hacienda because there were articles on the website. But the more I got into it and the more the town realized I was here, then more stories would come to me. And then they would ask me, would I come and investigate and just talk to them? Would we host a party there for them and have people investigate? And
Wow.
the Palace Saloon has been very good about doing a fundraiser to support the U.S. vets here in Prescott, and we've done haunted tours there.
Okay.
And we'll do another one in spring. But I know there's some other places I'd like to hit up and say, would you be open to this and make it a fundraiser for
Okay.
the local town?
Okay. Places that are in the book,
Yes.
but you don't currently have any connection to, other
No.
than what's in the book. Okay.
Well, I do know the people. I just haven't come and say, hey, you want to let us come in and hunt for ghosts in your building?
Which is what she did with me.
Which is what you did. Okay, well, let's talk about that
Yeah.
for a little while. When you went to Patti and said, you just knock on the door and say, hi, I'm looking for ghosts. Do you have any here?
No, I knew about the ghost and some of them, some that we had read, and I was telling her about, we were doing the book, and I went around to various businesses to let them know we're doing this. Did they want to be in the book? I knew some of them had stories. Did they have stories they could share with us? And Patty's like, oh yeah, we've got some. And
Well, I
invited me.
actually only knew of one, and then our investigations actually indicated that Fleming Parker actually is not a spirit in the building, but
that we've met yet.
that we've met yet.
Yes.
Okay.
But yeah, he was the one that was the most known for the
Right.
Knights of Pythias.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that in a minute. But you mentioned Parker, and there's a different Parker that I just
Right.
want to acknowledge.
Parker Anderson.
Right, and if you tell everybody about him a little bit and how he's connected to it.
He was just fantastic. He is a local historian. He's written quite a few books. Wicked, Prescott, and the Elks Theater, and the Yavapai Cemeteries. And he took my tour one night, and I knew his name because I'd read articles,
Right.
And after the tour, he said his publisher was doing a Haunted America division, and would I be interested in co-authoring a book with him? And I said, well, let me think about it. And the next day I called and said, yes, let's do it. And it was fun. It was fun. He's great to work with. He's very open. But being a local historian and being a paranormal, there's two opposites, because a local historian has documents
Right.
of everything, and they only, believe in that.
Right.
Where me, it's like, my intuition says this is how it happened. And I think the only major thing that we disagreed on were the tunnels. And
Yeah, we have that on the list to talk about a little bit.
but Parker is he's very well known. He does programs at the Prescott Center for the Arts. He's had some ghostly experiences happen to him while being there.
He's also the current president of the
Yes.
Prescott Area Arts and Humanities Council.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah. Good
And
for us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And they've got a big book festival they've got coming up in November, which will be really good. And I'm speaking at that.
Oh, very good. Excellent. So you sat down with Parker to write the book, and how did you start the process? How did you just come up with the how you want to outline the book and then fill it in? What's the process?
Well,
like on that?
we mainly stuck with the downtown area.
Okay.
And we set it up in categories as to bars and saloons and hotels and historical buildings. And then I had, of course, ghost stories, lots of them. He had a few, and but he did a lot of the history as well. And because I talk about the history on my tour, we were pretty much like, okay, this is what I've heard, this is what I know, this is what locals have told me. And he would say, yes, that's true. And he'd say, would you want to go ahead and write that up? And so then we would just pass back and forth our thoughts and our stories and meet and go through them and edit some. And so
Okay.
it worked out very well. He was very easy to work with.
Was there any structure to it as far as using the Charlotte Hall archives or something like that?
We did use a few pictures, which we've credited Charlotte Hall. A lot of the pictures were from a friend on the Prescott Longtimers website or Facebook page, and Isabel shared some of the pictures in there. A lot are pictures that I've taken, and so he just knows so much stuff,
Yeah,
He
I've
really
done a couple
does.
of things with Parker, and
Right.
he really has his thumb on what's going on around town, what has gone on, and,
Yes.
and everything else.
He is a great source for so many different things, and now he's even a source for ghost stuff, because I'm not sure he was that big of a believer when we started the book, but he started sharing some stories, and I think it got him thinking back about different
Right.
things that might have happened. And when you're at the Prescott Center for the Arts and you're in there by yourself and somebody calls your name or something and nobody else is around, it does make you think about who's doing that. Yeah.
So how long did it take to write the book?
Took us about a year from when we started, sent it to the
When
publisher,
was that?
and got it back. Last October is when it came out.
Okay.
So
So
the
you
year
worked
before
a year
that.
Before that, so
Yes.
2016, 2017?
Yes.
Okay.
And so it came out last year, and again, very supportive businesses, and some of them sell our books, and we're doing presentations again this year and book signings. So
Sounds like a lot of fun.
it is. It is a lot of fun.
Oh, I'm glad.
I love
you
talking
enjoyed
about ghosts.
I'm talking to them.
talking
Oh,
to
yeah.
them,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, do they ever talk back?
Yes, in a way. It's like you can hear the conversation in your head,
Okay.
So
No, I've never actually
Oh, okay.
spoken to a ghost, so
hang out with
And-
me and you'll will.
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Well, when you did the investigations at TIS, there were several different techniques.
Yes.
If you could talk about that, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Sure.
Why don't we
Yeah.
jump into that then? It's perfect. Why don't you go
Yeah.
ahead and
Well, I've never used equipment. I've always relied on my intuition, but I started up a group called a paranormal group, just to get like-minded people together, and so there was about 12 of us
Yeah. Yeah.
that went to TIS Gallery. We met early on a Sunday morning,
Right.
and all of them have different types of equipment. We have the infrared cameras that they set up. We have the K2 meter, which is fascinating. My son's got me one for Christmas.
okay. And
But-
explain the K2 meter to
So the
us
K2 meter,
uninitiated.
the K2 meter, and one of the things that you learn is you have to check for where all the electricity is coming out of the walls and everything, because it's, the equipment can be influenced. Even your cell phones can be influenced when you're recording or using them. And the K2 meter is very sensitive. But up on the mezzanine in
Yeah,
TIS
that's where our
Art Gallery,
mezzanine gallery is.
it's great. It has bullet holes in the ceiling, original bullet holes in the ceiling.
Really, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You never told me that.
Yeah.
And so we were up there, and we there was maybe 6 of us, and we weren't getting very many responses. And the K2 meter is just a meter kind of like this, except it has a lot of colors across here. And it'll start at, I believe, yellow, and it works its way, or green, and it works its way to red. So when you get a response, a spirit can make that meter change colors.
Okay.
So we weren't getting very much response, and we just sat there and had the meter set up, and I just started talking about the Palace Saloon, and the next thing we know is the meter goes to red. And I thought, okay, so this is what they're relating to. And I asked them, did they ever go to the Palace Saloon? And it went off red. And I said, did you ever use the tunnels? And there was nothing. And then I said, I've been in the tunnels. I know they're there. And then the meter went off again. And then I asked, I said, did you know someone there? Did you hang out there? But, you're in this building. Did you used to work here? And the meter goes off and indicates yes. And then I was asking different types of positions, and they were like a janitor or someone that cleaned the building, and that they were Chinese. And so they would go over to the palace.
We were not aware of this presence.
Okay.
And he's kind of shy.
He is.
It took a while for
It
you
did.
to
It
draw
did.
him out, yeah.
Not a poltergeist then.
No.
Okay.
And I have to tell you, before we do tours and before we do investigations, I always say a prayer of protection.
Okay.
I mean, because a ghost is the same personality dead as they were alive. So if they're a prankster, or even if they're evil, then they will come through. But also I've learned over the years that you can set your boundaries as what you allow in your space. And but it's nothing that you want to play with,
Right.
You definitely want
I could
to,
imagine.
yeah, you definitely want to be respectful of the areas that you're in and also of them, but also protective of yourself too.
Okay. So when you walk into the building, are you more than not alone, or are you usually with a group of people doing a team?
I never do an investigation by myself.
Okay.
I always do one with a team, and it can be from 3 people up to 12. You don't really like to have a lot of people, and also the location makes a difference. The Tiz Gallery is, I think, a better suited for a smaller group because
Right.
you can hear each other,
Right.
and we want to come back.
Okay. We'll have you back.
And we also have a new method that we've used.
Okay.
And it was headphones. You put headphones on, you plug them into a spirit box. A spirit box is round, and it makes like a white noise, so they're static. It's usually radio frequencies running backwards. And a spirit can talk through that, and you can hear them. Now, if you don't have a spirit box to hear them, you always want to have a recording playing, or recording it.
Right.
Because when you ask a question, you don't hear the spirit's response until you play it back. So you would say, who's here in the room with us? And then you pause and let them have time to respond. And then you'll ask another question. You want to know the history of where you are and who possibly was there. So you ask intelligent questions.
Right.
And try to make the questions simple so that it makes it easier for them to respond.
Okay. And is this a one-night thing, a 2-night thing? How long do these investigations
No,
usually
ours
last?
was,
It was just a daytime. We did it in the morning
In the
before they
morning.
opened for business.
I think we met at 9 and then
we were
concluded
gone
like
by
at noon.
12, yeah.
Yeah.
And we've done it twice. But the more, like now we know more about the Tiz Gallery, so now we want to go in and do it a different way.
Right.
So keep in mind, this is a 3-story building,
Yes.
from the late 1800s. So there was different activity on every
Yes.
floor.
There was. Back in the back where the old staircase is, and it's gorgeous.
Yes.
We got a cowboy, and on the recording you can hear his spurs as he walks down the stairs.
Oh, that's wild.
It is wild.
And then
And
in the 3rd floor banquet hall, you guys were using a technique with the magna lights.
Yes.
And yeah, if you can explain how that worked. 'cause
So
that
these
was-
are magnet flashlights.
Yeah, they're flashlights.
Yeah. And Sandy uses those, and she has different colors, like a red flashlight, a blue one, and a silver one. And she will say to the spirit, can you make the red flashlight, can you make the red one light up? And you wait a little while, and then it lights up. And you'll say, can you turn it off? And it'll turn it off. And so we were getting Knights of Pythias people there.
That's enough for me.
You would leave, huh?
Yeah, I'm done. Thank you very much.
But what was fun? I mean, the Knights of Pythias had their meetings up there, so
Right.
Yes.
and that makes sense that their presence was there. But Sandy, I believe, was mentioning something because she couldn't get the spirits to stop playing with the lights.
Yes, the flashlights.
And she reached the conclusion that it must be a young, a boy.
Right.
That he's found a toy, and
Yes.
we were trying to take it away from him, so he kept hitting
Playing
the
with the
lights.
lights.
Yeah.
But they have worked very well, and Sandy is very good at it. And that's the other thing is when you're doing anything, you try different equipment and maybe you don't feel in tune with it. You've got to go with your intuition about what feels right for you when you're using something.
Okay.
And so that leads into the other one that was intriguing to me because we took a picture off of the stairwell wall, and these were photographs that we actually acquired from the Charlotte Hall Museum of the Knights of Pythias and the history of the Tiz building, which is Tiz building now through time. And Darlene was attracted to this one where it appeared to be a group of the Knights of Pythias. And so we took it off the wall and you came downstairs. And maybe you can explain a little bit how that worked, because that was your intuition in motion.
Right. Yeah.
And that fascinated me.
Cool.
But yeah, tell them how that one worked.
So it's similar.
tell them how
Yeah.
that one.
It's one way of doing muscle testing. And muscle testing is a way that you work with your intuition, and your body is giving you these answers. You're not giving them, and you're not thinking really in your head. And one way of doing it is, I guess you'd call this swaying.
Yeah.
But she handed me the picture, and so you're standing up, and I'm looking at the picture, and you just close your eyes and you ask a question, are any of the spirits in this building, in this picture? And your body will either sway forward for yes or backwards for no. And sometimes you're not aware what direction you're going in, so there's someone there that's saying,
Right.
and it swayed yes.
Yes.
So then I said, are you on this side of the picture? And I think we got a no, and we got a no for this side, but then we got the center.
The center, yeah.
And it was a young person. And so the questioning and everything, we realized that he was not necessarily a shop owner, but he worked in the store that was there on the first floor.
Okay.
Which might have been Sullivan's Shoes and Sundries.
Yeah. And
There's
that
old pictures
the
of
reason
that.
he became a part of the Knights of Pythias is because he heard all the gossip in town.
Okay.
Because he was unassuming.
You're in the club.
Yeah.
What are you saying? That the guys gossip just like everybody else?
Yeah. Don't let him tell you differently.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm shocked.
But they would be in the stores looking at things, and they'd be talking, gossiping and
Right.
everything, and they would not pay attention to him, and he would have all these stories to tell the men upstairs, and that's why he was very popular with the group.
Neat.
Yeah.
So were there any individuals that you were able to identify specifically in this, or is it just general?
It's mostly general, and I know that she was really thinking that Fleming Parker, who was, he was hung in the courthouse plaza in 1898. He escaped from the jail and killed the assistant district attorney.
Yeah, the story goes that, I guess it was, I can't remember the exact date, but he and an accomplice had robbed the Peach Springs train up north, and they were on the run. And there was a Coconino sheriff and some Navajo trackers that caught up to them, and they brought them to Prescott because this was the territorial seat.
Right.
And during the course of, they were incarcerated in the jail, but Fleming broke out. And when he broke out, he shot and mortally wounded Lee Norris, who was the deputy district attorney,
Yes.
I believe, and his office was on the second floor of
The Tiz
of
Gallery.
the Tiz building.
Yeah.
But that's not the reason why we found out later that it was quite possible that that was not the reason why we thought he might be haunting the building. But in the course of his breakout, this is the other part of the story that I learned, he actually stole Sheriff Ruffner's horse. And Sure Shot was this beautiful white horse. And he was heading south. While he was on the run, he changed the shoes on the horse to throw off trackers. But that wasn't such a good idea because Sure Shot ended up becoming lame. And they actually, when they caught up to him, they had to put Sure Shot down. And Sure Shot, by the way, is buried on the grounds of where the Arizona Biltmore is now, down in the Phoenix area. But anyway, they brought Fleming Parker back, and Herndon was another attorney who was on the second floor.
Who they think built that building.
Yeah, because he goes way back.
Right.
But he was the one that expedited Fleming's execution. And that's the reason why we think that there's a presence there, because, yeah.
And also because your elevator opens.
Yeah, it likes to do that.
And there was an attorney that worked in there. And he would come in the back door and the elevator would open and he'd say, "No, thank you, I'm taking the stairs today." And then the elevator door shuts and he'd walk up the stairs.
And this is
I go up the stairs too.
This is second floor activity. And,
Yeah.
and when he was there, the faucets in the kitchen would turn on by themselves. No one else would be in the building. And
Water pressure.
yeah, it probably wasn't.
But some of his staff would say, they were, they'd have their papers moved across the table. And years before that, there was an attorney in there, and he couldn't get his staff to stay late. And so he brought in a priest to do a
Cleansing.
Yeah,
Cleansing.
a cleansing and a blessing of the building.
Yeah.
And
That's
and
in the book.
then everything settled down, and it was fine. And then the building sat empty, and you all got the building.
Yeah, through the course of time, there were different owners, but when the TIS Foundation got a hold of it, that was when we were able to restore it.
And that stirs up the ghost.
We got it. There were pigeons in the rafters on the third floor.
Yeah.
It was.
And I have to tell you, the third floor is stunning. Have you been up there?
Yes, many times.
I just fell in love with that floor.
Yeah.
When we were up there. And one of the things that fascinated me was by the windows are these blonde wood blocks that look like a brick. And there's one at the bottom and the middle and the top. And so I asked.
Yeah, well, I asked you to take note of them.
Yeah.
To try and get you to tell me what you thought they were. But, the windows are very, very tall. And so periodically there's these wooden blocks instead of the bricks. And they're actually called gringo blocks. And that's what anchors the frame of the window, because it's all brick.
Okay.
So the wood had to be put in there in order to anchor the frame of the windows.
Yeah, I just thought that was fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's different.
And why would they call them gringo blocks? Well, the bricks that were made, the master masons were the guys from Mexico.
Right.
Yeah. They're the ones that
So
put
they were
that
probably
on.
kind of poking fun. Well, let's throw a gringo block in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're still there, and that's what's so amazing.
Yeah.
I love that building.
Okay, well, why don't we talk about some of the other places around
Sure.
town that you've had experiences with?
You're good at that. Well, one of them's the Hotel Vendome.
Mm-hmm.
I used to help out the previous managers there. And one of the cat is a ghost there, Noble, and Abby, she's the famous ghost there.
Mm-hmm.
But I also found out that in that hotel, it doesn't really matter what room you stay in. you're going to run into
They're going to run into the ghost.
But there are people that stay there that have no idea it's haunted and nothing happens to them. But then you get a lot of people that want room 16, which is Abby's room.
And who was Abby?
So Abby is the famous ghost there. The story is that she was very ill. Her husband went out to get her medicine and didn't come back. So she locked her cat in the closet and locked herself in her room, and they both starved to death. Yeah.
Ow.
Yeah.
Meow.
Yes.
Meow. Ow. Yeah.
So one night I was in the office working late, and I have a cat at home, so I didn't think anything of it, but this cat brushed against my leg and meowed, and when I looked down, there's nobody there.
Right.
So I just said, okay, Noble, what do you want? We also had a guest that was staying in Abby's room. She'd been there a week. She wanted something to happen so badly, and I said, well, I'll give you a saucer of milk. We'll put it down, and we'll just see if something happens. And so the next morning, she comes running downstairs. She's so excited. She said that she woke up at 2:30 in the morning to this cat kneading her shoulder. And I said, well, we aim to please. So.
Was the
But
dog coming?
I'm checking out.
I don't know. I mean, we get people
Yeah,
that...
Steve was like, I'm checking out now.
We did have a shaman that checked out.
Oh, really?
He checked in and he checked out. He just said, he went up to his room and he just said, he came back down 10 minutes later and he said, I'm sorry, I can't stay here. There's too many spirits.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
and they, you know, think of it differently than we do. But,
Right.
but we've done investigations in there. We've had a lot of different names and people that introduce themselves. And one night we said, you know, who's here in the room with us? And we heard somebody say, my name's Willie. Another one said Fred. And then somebody said, shh, don't tell them your names.
Wow.
But one of the pictures I sent that is now not here is a picture of the ghost cat chasing a ghost mouse. You saw
I
it.
saw it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And somebody on my tour got that picture. So I tell people when you take pictures, you want to have your flash on and you want to take 3 pictures, because if it's a reflection, it'll show up in all 3 pictures. But if it's a ghost, it's only going to show up in one.
Right.
And I've got pictures of her first one, and then this was her middle one of us standing in the hall. And the second one, you can see 2 objects in the hallway, and her husband enlarged them and sent them in, and you can see the ghost cat and the chasing a ghost mouse.
Mouse.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. I didn't realize that, because that explains the one that I sent you from Tracy
Yes.
at Blushing Cactus, where she was doing photography at the theater for a band, and she has a shot of the drummer. And if you look past the drummer, and if you're facing it, it would be on the left side of the drummer. And the drummer is very expressive in the photo and looking straight ahead and where the crowd would be. And behind this person to the left is the clear silhouette of a female form. And it's
a good
clearly
one.
It's a
there.
very good
It's
shot.
clearly
Very
there, and I'm heartbroken that we don't have it, but we'll try to get it later. And you know, you can see the outline where her hair is brushed away from her head, and her features on her face, and she has some sort of clothing on, and it's very, very, very. She's very, very, very clearly there. But when Tracy was taking the shots, this was the only shot that it showed up in. The previous shots had nothing. The after shots had nothing.
She was shooting fast.
She was
like-
shooting
Yeah.
fast,
Yeah,
just doing
yeah,
lots of
yeah.
shots. This is the only one it happened to appear in. So that explains that. That was
Right.
fascinating, and you know, we'll try to get that online as soon as we can. As soon as the ghosts start mucking with the email.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, one of the things I want to say is about orbs. And you get orbs in pictures. And orbs can be very controversial because it could be dust particles, it could be if you're outside, it could be the wind or the temperature or the weather. And walking around, you're stirring up dust. And so you want to pay attention to your environment and what is going on around you. And some of the pictures that we don't have.
Seems to be a theme.
Yeah. Are 2 very large orbs that I took in the lobby. of the Hotel Vendome.
Okay.
And one of the ghosts that's in there is a cowboy. And there was a very intuitive woman who lives in Flagstaff. I asked her what she thought of these orbs and had she been to the Vendome, and she said, I haven't been to Prescott. She looks at them and she said, oh, well, this one's a cowboy and he's like a security guard or something. And she's the fourth person to associate activity that we had in the hotel with a cowboy. Totally different sources that did not know the story.
Wow. Wow.
So that's one of the other ghosts in there.
Okay. What about you also mentioned the Hacienda as a feature.
Yes. So the Hacienda, again, has been so wonderful in opening and supporting my tours. And we go into the lobby of the Hacienda. Up at the front where the two pianos are there in the lobby, it's a round table and 4 chairs. And one night I had a paranormal group from Phoenix doing the tour, and they were filming it. And I sat down at that table. Mm-hmm. The lead investigator, Barry, was across the room, and I said, Barry, you might want to take a picture. There's somebody behind me. And he took 3 pictures, and in one picture there was what we call him the night watchman, and he was standing back in the corner. And he sits at that table. The story is that people who close the dining room late at night will come up the stairs, and sometimes they'll see a man sitting there, and they'll say, oh, sir, I'm sorry, let me turn the lights on for you. And they go to turn the lights on, and nobody's there.
Nobody's there.
Yeah, so.
Time to find a new job.
But there's a ghost of a little Chinese boy. He's shown up, and there's quite a few that are there as well.
Okay. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about the theater. So
The Elks Theater.
The Elks Theater.
Yes.
Now, those are just some examples of the stories that are in the book, and they're really wild. So I really recommend it. It's a good read. It's historical, and it's a lot of fun actually, because you live here. You might as well find out something about what's actually going on.
You
here.
get the history.
You get the history of it all.
Yes, as well.
Yeah, definitely. So, anyways, back to the Elks Theater.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about the Elks Theater, because I've been told, being an employee there, that there's some pretty crazy stuff that goes on in that place. So,
Yeah. So the women's
The women's
Restroom.
restroom.
The women's restaurant.
the middle stall,
Mhm.
you don't really want to go in there, especially by yourself, because somebody will try to open the door and they're kind of banging on the door, and you don't see any feet and you don't see any shadows or anything on the other side. Another one is he's known as the Professor, and he played the violin years ago when it was silent movies.
Right.
And he would he left there one night with a fellow musician and walked down to his home. His wife was nagging him over and over and over, and he just very calmly gets up and walks to the other room and gets a gun and kills himself. So every time after a performance at the Elks Theater, the cleaning crew will hear violin music playing. So I had a lady on my tour one night who worked there, and I asked her, I said, have you heard the violin music? And she said, no. She said, but we outsource our janitorial service, and we get a lot of them that won't come back.
Really? Well, for the nagging husband,
Yes.
divorce is easier.
Yeah. I know I get a lot of people on the tour that say, wow, I just shot her.
Wow. So,
Yeah.
So what's the strangest thing that you learned about all the stories, the weirdest, oddest, in your own opinion, obviously?
Well, I would say the most haunted and the most active that I'm aware of is the Palace Saloon,
Okay.
because it's the oldest saloon in Arizona. I end my tours there, but we've done several events there. We've done investigations down in the basement. And last Halloween, we were doing an event, and a friend was recording on her phone, and Sandy was giving her demonstration about the flashlights. And all of a sudden in there, you hear this voice that says, I kill you. And all this conversation is going on around. And then further down the recording, you hear a woman's voice that says something not very nice to him. So these two ghosts are having this conversation back and forth, and there's rooms like there's 50 people in there.
Wow.
So
and you recorded that.
yes,
Wow.
and we've had
To be heard later.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's on my Facebook page, so it's there. And we've had, they constantly have something going. They had a group of teachers in there having lunch, and they were sitting at the round table underneath the big white poster of Junior Bonner.
Mm-hmm.
And Ray was serving them. He comes out and he said, "Your food's ready. I'm going to go get it." He goes back in the kitchen, and then he hears all this screaming, and he comes out, and they've all jumped up and they're running up to the front of the saloon, and he's like, "What's wrong? What's going on?" And they said, "Well, the condiments in that buffet came flying out and hitting us." And he goes around the corner and looks, and the condiments are laying all over the table and the floor. So he boxed up their food and he gave it to them. And they wrote Dave, the previous owner, and said, "Wow, it's the best food we've ever had, and we'll never come back."
That's great.
Sorry about that.
We're having trouble with our servers. So. Excellent. So the book also talks a little bit about the local cemeteries in the
Right.
area, and just if you touch upon those a little bit.
So Parker wrote that piece because he has written a book about the cemeteries. But the Citizen Cemetery is our oldest cemetery, and I know that they used to do reenactments there in October. I don't know if that's still going to happen, but it was a wonderful thing to do because it really puts the people in touch with who was here and how this city became what it was,
Right.
and what these people went through, because some of the stories are very tragic. And so there are quite a few cemeteries, but that one is very much worth a visit.
Yeah. Do you know any of the particulars on who famous individuals that might be
Well,
planted
James
there?
Fleming Parker,
Parker.
yeah, he's buried there. He does have his headstone now.
Yeah, it was a practice at the time to bury, people like James Fleming Parker, who was a criminal, and people who were very poor. In an area of the cemetery is known as the Potter's Field.
Right. And also depending on their crime, on whether they got a headstone or not.
Right. Fleming did not get a headstone, but let's bring up Parker Anderson,
Yeah.
who
The two of you two
We need to
have such a connection with James Fleming Parker.
I kept looking, for an area in the Potter's Field, during the Day of the Dead ceremony that they do at the Smoke Eye Museum every year. There's a procession that actually goes from the museum, and we bring flowers to the graves in the Citizen Cemetery. And 2 years ago, I was just beside myself because I found Fleming Parker's stone.
Headstone.
And that was placed there by
Parker Anderson.
Parker Anderson.
Really? Okay.
He has also felt a connection
Yeah.
to him, and he's written a lot about him. And he used his money he wanted him to have a headstone.
What was
And
it
he
you
did.
were saying too about another story? Who was it? Billy the Kid?
Oh yeah. So
Where you wouldn't. I mean, where people were buried, sometimes a headstone wouldn't be there, out of fear that somebody would want to exhume the
well,
body.
he was
Right.
dug up once,
Yeah.
so they won't put a headstone there.
Yeah.
And he's up
Yeah.
at the Pioneers Home Cemetery, which Big Nose Kate,
Right.
Doc Holliday's on again, off again girlfriend is
yeah.
buried.
Yeah.
She died here in Prescott and died a week before her 90th birthday, which is amazing because back then travel alone was,
Right. Yeah.
difficult.
You didn't normally. It was a rare person that lived
Right.
to a ripe
Yeah.
old age.
And she said in her memoir, she said she was proud of who she was because she was an independent woman and that she could outshoot, outspit, and outgamble anybody.
Well, good for her. Then.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. Okay, well, why don't we tell the listening audience how they can get a hold of your book, any upcoming events that you have going on, and what's the future hold.
Well, the book, Haunted Prescott, you can purchase it on my website. You can get it on Amazon. Peregrine Bookstore has
I
it.
saw it at Costco too.
Does Costco have it?
I saw it at Costco a couple weeks ago.
Good.
Yeah.
And the Palace Saloon sells it. The Hotel Vendome sells it. So, and then, like I said, we're going to be doing presentations at the Prescott Library and the Prescott Valley Library and at Peregrine again.
And do you have dates on those, times and dates?
No, but I'll put them on the Facebook or on my website
Okay,
as
the
well.
Facebook page is, what's the
Is
address?
Ghost of Prescott.
Ghost of Prescott's?
Ghost of Prescott
And the website?
is a haunting experience tours or Haunted Prescott.
Okay, and if people want to get in touch with you, they can go to either Facebook or the
Yeah.
website.
Right.
And there's
They've
a
got my
contact
number. Typically I do the tours Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights, but in the month of October I do them almost every night.
information.
And I find that people get groups together and do the tours, and it's actually a lot more fun because you know everybody and you're
Right.
having a good time. So
Right.
yeah.
Excellent. And you mentioned earlier that you're doing something special at the Elks Theater
Yes.
during the month of October.
In the month of October on Wednesdays before their special October movies, we'll be doing book signings and selling books there as well. So we'll probably be there from 6 to 7, I believe.
Okay. And it will be just the Haunted Prescott?
Yes.
Or will it be Prescott? Or will it be the...
Come on, Stephen.
It's the accent from
Yeah.
just kicks out every once in a while.
Can't take the Northeast out of you.
Yeah. Most of it is gone, so
Yeah.
thankfully. But okay, so very good. And what time do the tours start right now?
Right now they start at 7, but because it's getting darker earlier,
Right.
in the wintertime I usually start them around 5:30.
And where do you meet?
We meet at the Hotel Vendome. Reservations are required, so they can always call.
Okay.
And like I said, it's usually a 2 hours. It's a walking tour. Sometimes it goes 3 hours. It depends on the group
Right.
and pictures and questions. And a lot of people get more into the paranormal and the psychic end of it and have a lot of questions about that. So I do energy clearings in homes and businesses, and so they are kind of fascinated with that. So,
Right. Yeah, I've had a couple of the instructors at the Elks Performing Arts Center ask me if we would do a cleansing,
yes.
have somebody come in with the sage. And
You know,
We know just the person.
I do now.
well, I've done several realtors that have had problems selling their home or a home.
Right.
And I'll go through and do an energy clearing, and in 2 weeks they'll have several offers. I just did a veterinary clinic, and that was probably the most emotional and most wonderful thing I've ever done. I've done them for several businesses. It really, I tell them, I said, now when I do a clearing, you've got to get ready because your business is going to double. And it does. But it's our intuition that's saying, I don't want to go in there, or I don't
Right.
want to look at that. And they don't know why.
Right.
But you do a clearing and that's all gone.
Well,
I know.
fascinating.
It is
Very
fascinating. It blows me away, and I've been doing them for years.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's an amazing story, and it's fascinating to learn about what actually goes on in this town, or has gone on in this town, and who we are and our history here.
Yes.
It's wonderful. It's
Yeah.
wonderful.
And that's one thing that it makes me very proud to do the tours because of what they've done in this town. That they are proud of their history. And people remark about that all the time. They say, towns are so quick to tear something down that they aren't preserving the history. And that's one of the things they love about Prescott.
Our building almost went down
Right.
in
Yeah.
the 1970s. They actually had dynamite in the walls, and the citizens got together and said, "No."
Yeah.
Well, they did that
So
with
was
the
the theater.
Elks Theater.
Yeah.
They were going to knock that puppy down.
And Elizabeth
Yeah.
Ruffner said,
Yeah.
no, let me do a fundraiser.
Yeah.
And I think because of her, what a remarkable woman, a lot of these places are still standing.
Right. Well, it set the tone for the preservation of the area.
Right.
Yeah.
So that people look at it differently. It's not just a place where they can put a parking lot or a contemporary
Right.
building or something like that. It's a place that has more intrinsic value now. So that's fantastic. Thank you
And
so
that's-
much.
yeah, thank you. Thank you
coming
for
and
having
chatting
me.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to move on and talk about, as we usually do at the end of the show, what's coming up at the Elks Theater and Performing Arts Center. And we are right now. It is the 27th of September, if you can believe it. Just a few months left of Christmas. Arrgh! And 9/27, which is today, we actually have two events going on at the Elks Theater and Performing Arts Center. In the theater itself, it is Piano Man Generations, which is a tribute to Billy Joel and Elton John, and basically they're both on the stage playing piano at each other, so to
Oh,
speak.
that'd be good.
Yeah.
It is a sold out show, so I'm sorry, but if you haven't got your tickets already, it's too late now. I mean, you can come down at opening time when the theater opens at 6 and see if there's anything available, but it's been sold out for a little while. And tonight, and you know, I left this off my list.
Uh-oh.
I
Uh-oh.
was wondering where the other thing was.
Hang on, everybody. Let me use my technology here and go look
Hopefully
that
the
up.
ghosts haven't gotten
The
it.
ghost got a hold of it. It must have erased it from the. I got that
Because
one.
you
I
said
got
two things.
Yeah, I got two things. Oh, go figure. Anyways, let me go through, and I will go through the rest of it, and then come back and get it later. On 9/28 at the theater, Dream Lover. And would you mind looking up the Elks Theater for me? Will I pull that up? And we'll just figure out who the heck is playing tonight. Anyways, Dream Lover, tribute to Bobby Darin, and there still are a few tickets
Love
available
Bobby
for that
Darin.
one. Wonderful show, been there a number of times before. As we move into October, in the theater, it's event after event after event after event. It's a packed month with great shows, comedy, movies, and at the theater on 10/5, the local group Mile High Comedy Theater is going to be doing a night of improv at the theater. And if you were at the last show they did here a couple of months ago, it's a hoot. I went to one of those that they did in the Performing Arts Center. I tell you, I hadn't laughed that hard in a million years. It was a great show. On the 12th of October, we have Aretha. Long Live the Queen. It's a tribute to Aretha Franklin, and if you're a fan of Aretha Franklin, it should be a great show. On 10/18, a new group we've never had before. It is a Dixie Chicks tribute, and they'll be playing some of the best hits from the Dixie Chicks. On 9/20, in conjunction with the folk sessions, Tom Agostino and the folk sessions, we have the recording star Maria Muldaur coming to the theater, and she'll be there for one show on the 20th, and tickets are available on the website. And Maria has been very busy since she was mostly known. Mostly known to the public for her biggest hit, Midnight at the Oasis. But she's gone on to be a multiple Grammy starring artist who has had a number of Grammy-nominated recordings for blues and rhythm and blues, and is supposedly really come along in a lot of different directions, and should be a great show. After her, on 10/25, The Who. Experience, and that is the Who, Roger Daltrey and team. Not the real ones. They're not doing that anymore that I'm aware of, but these guys that look and sound like them doing the show. Then on 10/26, we have the Rocky Horror Picture Show Shadowcast movie, and that's on 10/26. So we'll be playing the movie. And then on the floor in front of the theater, we have live actors acting out in pantomime.
Okay, I was wondering about the
theater.
shadow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
That sounds like fun.
That'll
it should be a lot of
cool.
fun. And So we'll see how that goes. So October movies at the theater. These are every Wednesday, 7 o'clock. We're going to scare the bejeebers out of you during the month of October, starting with Alfred Hitchcock's classic The Birds. And if you've never seen that
That's
on the
the
big
original.
screen,
Yeah.
you really need to take a look at that. It's
It's
fantastic. And just something I read about that in the scene in the attic where Tippi Hedren is up in the attic and she can't get the door open and the birds are at her. She did not know that there were supposed to be fake birds that were being heaved at her. Alfred Hitchcock swapped them out for real birds.
Oh.
And so those are real birds
I didn't know.
flying around her, and she had no idea. So she was really scared.
So those screams were real.
Those screams were real. At least that's what I read. So, and then after that, on the 9th, Harry Potter, Chamber of Secrets will be on. Then, great movie, seen it a couple of times. The Conjuring. Just a good scary one. After that, Beetlejuice on the 23rd, and Hocus Pocus rounds out the month on the 30th. And then we switch to the Performing Arts Center on the 3rd floor of the Performing Arts Center in the Crystal Hall. We have a number of different shows going on. We have on 10/2, this is a free show, open to the public. It is the Artist Studio Tour Gala and Reception. I just want to give them a quick plug. If you like to go on the Artist Studio Tour, this is an opportunity to meet the artists ahead of time, see some of their art real close up, and find out what it is all about, plan out your event, and they'll be having some refreshments and some music.
Because we have 8 of our artists that are participating in the studio tour in the Tiz Annex building. So I believe there's going to be about 4 of the artists who are participating. They're going to be at this gala.
Nice.
But I'd like to invite everyone to come to the Tiz Annex building as part of that tour, because you can actually visit 8 people in one place.
Nice.
Yeah.
Should be a really fun time. And I remember last year that there was hundreds of people that showed up.
Yeah, it was
they
a
were
lot.
packed
Yeah.
when they came in. It was amazing. So anyways, Elks Theater and Performing Arts Center. You guys gave me a different Elks Theater.
Oh.
Or something else.
Oh.
Okay,
Uh-oh.
so after that,
That's a good one.
it was a movie theater. It was an Elks Theater. They were doing movies only.
That sounded good. That was the
It
Lions
sounded like a
King.
Lions King was playing, but I think it's in Illinois or something.
Darn.
Yeah. So anyways, after that on 10/3, we have Mid-Century Modern Night, and that is a jazz band, and it is Mingus Mountain Bobtet. There's it's a pre-Halloween costume, and we'll be having prizes. The Hawk and Hound Catering has come up with some great food that they'll be selling there. There'll be an open bar, and hopefully you'll love it. So it's only $7 at the door, and you can come in, and there's no reserved seats or anything like that, and you can just kind of pop in, stay, get
All
some
dressed
food, all dressed up, or not dressed up, as you see fit. It's
Yeah.
perfectly all right. No one will say anything, but maybe you'll win a prize if you do. On 10/10, this has just been signed up, and I don't have a lot of information on it yet. It's actually sitting in my computer at the office, and when I get back to the office, I'll be posting that up online. This is in conjunction with the Five Enses and John Duncan. At the on the website, information's on the website. After that, on 10/16, we have a new thing that we're doing up there. It's an open mic night for prose reading. So if you are a local author and you want to, read some story and, kind of get up in front of the crowd and speak a little bit about what it is you do and read some prose or a story about, short story, this is the place to be. And there's information on it. It's like $5 to get in. It just goes to defray, some of the costs of being there and doing it. And then on 10/18, we have Prescott Night Out, Comedy Night 2. And Comedy Night 1 was a complete sellout. It was about a month ago. And this is Comedy Night 2, where Prescott Night Out, San Martin Rodriguez is bringing in a number of different comedians to play and make you chuckle. It is 18 or above only, so it does get a little risque. And the show tonight is Emily Scott Robinson, and that's in the Elks Ballroom, and I don't know, I've only been looking at it for 3 months, and I just drew a blank on it. So tickets are still on sale. As of this morning, there were a couple of dozen seats left. And that's about it. And once those couple go, then it's sold out completely. So I expect it will sell out completely. And Emily Scott Robinson is considered one of the up-and-coming country music stars. So there's an opportunity to say that you saw her before she became international and went on national tours and places like that. So that's some of what's going on, and of course we have all the usual things going on the second floor, the dance and music and everything else going on at the Performing Arts Center. And that's about it for this month. So I'd like to thank our guests, Patti Ortiz and Darlene Wilson. And next month we will be back at the 4th Friday. And
It's Art Walk Night.
Art Walk Night.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. And don't forget, Wednesdays during October at the theater, you can get a signed copy of the book,
Right.
autographed copy. And if you have any other questions, go to the website, elkstheater.com, or the Prescott Elks Theater on the Facebook page. All right. Thank you so much for listening. Been a pleasure, and we'll see you next month.